Welcome to episode 3 of the NBA Talk Show. We have a few days of basketball to catch up on, so I want to start with Thursday, January 21st. We had the Lakers and the Bucks. Lakers took down the Bucks 113 to 106. The Bucks continue to lack the certain type of defensive intensity I'd like to see from them, especially when they guard pick and roll situations. Specifically, just off the top of my head, Bobby Portis comes to mind. Every time he guards a pick and roll, he is dropping to below the free throw line. And the team as a whole really just kind of do that. And I'm not sure exactly what Budenholzer's scheme is here. If his goal is to give up open threes, they're doing a really great job of it. It's a thing I know Bucks fans are concerned about is Budenholzer's coaching, his rotations, and who he's giving more minutes to over others is definitely confusing at times. So we'll see if this is the year he actually makes adjustments and figures it out. We'll have to wait and see, though. The Jazz took down the Pelicans on Thursday as well, 129-118. Donovan Mitchell still playing very well this season. The Knicks also took down the Warriors, 119-104. RJ Barrett had 28 in this game, and the starting lineup as a whole had a very solid game together. That was all for basketball on Thursday. We'll move on to Friday, the 22nd. The Bulls took down the Hornets, 123-110. It was a very balanced effort by them. Zach LaVine had 25 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. Very solid overall game from the Bulls. Gordon Hayward had 34 points in this game. Terry Rozier looked very good. Devontae Graham had some big shots, and LaMelo continues to look very good on offense. I'm curious to see how long it takes the Hornets to start LaMelo over Devontae and what they do there, because it's clear that LaMelo has more talent, although Devontae Graham can shoot the ball a bit better. The Raptors took down the Heat 101-81. The Heat were very inconsistent in this game. They're still missing Jimmy and Tyler Hero and Avery Bradley due to injuries and health protocols. The Heat went down big early in this game, and at halftime it was looking pretty ugly. Then the third quarter came around, and they ended up tying the game up, but then ended up losing by 20 anyway. It slipped away from them. Not a big game from Bam or anyone really in particular. Kendrick Nunn had 22. He's continuing to step up in other players' absences, which is good to see. The Rockets took down the Pistons 103-102. Nothing much to say about that game. Pacers took down the Magic in OT 120-118. Another game I don't really have much to say on. The Cavaliers took down the Nets in their second game 125-113. Colin Sexton, Jared Allen, and the whole starting group are really looking like they are coming together, and they took down a KD-less Nets team. James Harden was looking very passive in this game and not hitting many shots. So it was definitely a bit interesting to see the Cavaliers take down this Nets team. I wouldn't call it concerning quite yet, as it is just their first few games together with James Harden, but it definitely was eyebrow-raising to see the Cavaliers take them down in 2 straight games. The 76ers took down the Celtics 122-110. Jaylen Brown had 42 points, 9 rebounds. He shot 16 for 28 and had 5 for 8 three-pointers. Embiid had 38 points, 11 rebounds. He shot 11 for 15. He was 2 for 2 from three-point range, and he was 14 for 15 on free throws. Tobias Harris had 23 points this game, and Ben Simmons had 15 points and 11 assists, 11 points coming in the fourth quarter, and they were all pretty big as he was actually aggressive in crunch time, which was nice to see, as I've been a bit critical of him being aggressive offensively, so it was nice to see him put away the Celtics down the stretch of this game. Staying with the Celtics on this game, Jaylen Brown has been incredibly impressive this year so far, as Jaylen has been stepping up in Jason Tatum's absence due to health protocols. He's averaging 26.9 points per game this year, 6 rebounds, and 3.7 assists on 52% shooting and 41% three-point shooting. To put that into perspective, last year he was averaging 20.3 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists on 48% field goals and 38% field goal percentages. So his percentages are a bit up from what they have been, and it's definitely his best numbers as a pro so far. It does look like Boston has a very, very great duo brewing with Jaylen and Jason. Definitely some borderline superstars at the moment for sure. I definitely saw Jaylen's emergence coming in a way especially once Gordon Hayward left. You could see flashes of his game really coming through, especially like last year against the Heat. He would just take over in games if Jason wasn't hitting shots. Jaylen was coming up big. And now that they don't have Gordon Hayward to kind of eat up those wing minutes, you are seeing Jaylen Tatum. Wow, I said Jaylen Tatum. My fault. You're seeing Jaylen Brown really just kind of step up into this role, especially with Jason being out, and it's really nice to see, as he's going to be a good player for a long time in this league. Moving on to the other games from Friday, the Hawks took down the Timberwolves 116-98. Trae Young had 43 points, and Clint Capella had a triple-double with 13 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 blocks. Definitely a triple-double line you don't see very often. I remember Joakim Noah back in the day on the Bulls used to get some triple-doubles with blocks. So those are always some fun games to watch when you can see a player get it with blocks. The Mavericks took down the Spurs 122-117. The Nuggets took down the Suns in OT 130-126. The Clippers took down the Thunder 120-106. And the Kings took out the Knicks 103-94. The last 4 or 5 games there I don't have much to say on, as I did not see those. We will move on now to today's games. Saturday, January 23rd is when this is being recorded. That's why I say today's games. This episode will be up on Sunday the 24th. The big game from today's games was Bam Adebayo pouring in 41 points, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists against the Nets on 14 for 20 shooting. Dragic also had 19 points and 7 assists, although he shot 0 for 6 from 3. Duncan Robinson had 18, shooting 3 for 11 from 3. And Kendrick Nunn had 18 points on 4 for 9 from 3 and 7 for 14 overall on field goals. As a team, then the Heat shot 28% from 3, so outside of Bam, they really weren't getting anything efficient from anyone outside of Bam, and you can say Kendrick as well. Kendrick's still playing well in his increased role without Avery Bradley and Tyler Hero. Even with Bam's big game, they took a L to the Nets 128-124. KD had 31 points. Kyrie had 28, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. And Harden did not have a good game. He looked very passive in this game. He had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists. He shot 2 for 8. You are hearing that correctly. James Harden took 8 shots this game, and he was 0 for 5 from 3. He also had 6 turnovers. They inserted Joe Harris back into the lineup, which I really thought they shouldn't have taken him out to begin with. I think you lose a lot from him if you put him on the bench. If you keep him with the 3 superstars on this team, you're going to see a lot of open shots for him, and you're going to want that. He had 23 points, 20 coming in the first half. And this game was quite back and forth. A lot of the time, the Nets were pushing away from the Heat, and then all of a sudden the Heat would go on a big run, scoring 11 straight, 14 straight, 7 straight. So it was definitely a back and forth battle that was fun to watch. Bam just kept putting it to them, as they really just don't. Currently, the Nets don't have a big man to really defend anyone. DeAndre Jordan is not what he used to be, so Bam was definitely taking it to them. And a big part of Bam's game this year has been the mid-range, facing up, jab stepping, and hitting mid-ranges or slashing to the cup. And he's been extremely efficient at that, shooting around 50%. So that's definitely big strides in his game so far this year. And it's very nice to see, especially in Jimmy Butler's absence, for him to step up and play like this. I do think that for the Heat to be successful again in the playoffs, they're going to need Bam. And they're going to probably need to work through him mainly, as Jimmy can't do it all himself. Similar scores from our Saturday slate of games. The 76ers took down the Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose-less Pistons 114 to 110. Embiid is continuing to go on a tear this year, putting in 33 points and 14 rebounds. Ben Simmons had a better game, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. He definitely looked a lot more aggressive offensively this game, which was nice to see. That team's definitely going to need him to stay aggressive to be successful in the playoffs, as Embiid cannot put in these 30 and 40 points per game on a nightly basis all year long. The Jazz took down the Warriors 127 to 108. They are now on an 8-game winning streak. Curry also moved up to number 2 all-time on three-pointers made, passing Reggie Miller tonight. It's only a matter of time before he hits the number 1 spot. He's only a couple hundred away, so he will be passing that next year or the year before, I'd say, or the year after. The Lakers also took down the Bulls tonight, 101 to 90. The Bulls were down 30 at halftime, so for them to lose by 11, I guess, is not completely terrible considering halftime. So they at least have some fight in them with Billy Donovan. But they definitely have a lot of room for improvement. The Rockets took out the Mavericks 133-108. Eric Gordon put in 33 points. Boogie had 28. You had Nwaba coming off the bench putting in 18. So definitely one of the better games from Boogie, after I had recently talked about him not being anywhere near what he used to be. He comes in and got big minutes tonight. He played 30 minutes. He was averaging around 15 to 20 beforehand. So if he's going to get big minutes and put in numbers, hey, maybe the Rockets are going to look like something. Luka had not the typical Luka game. He had 26, 5 rebounds and 8 assists. Did not shoot particularly well. He isn't shooting well as a whole this year to start out, although that is a pretty common trend with a lot of shooters this year, so I'm sure he'll bounce around and bounce back. The Nuggets and Suns went into OT again, this time double OT. The Nuggets beat the Suns again, 120 to 112. Jamal Murray hit a step back in regulation to take it to OT, and then Jay Crowder hit a clutch 3 with about 1.5 seconds left of OT to put it into double OT, but the Nuggets ended up running away with it once double OT came around. Jokic had 29 and 22 rebounds. Jamal Murray put in 26. Michael Porter Jr. had 14 on 5 for 9 shooting and 11 boards to go along with that. And it was an all-around good game from the Denver Nuggets. On the Suns side of the ball, Jay Crowder had one of his better games as a Sun, putting in 21 points. Chris Paul had 21, 9 rebounds, and 13 assists. DeAndre Ayton had 17 and 13. And Cameron Johnson put in 19 points. The last game and team I would like to talk about are the New Orleans Pelicans. They played the Timberwolves tonight, and the Timberwolves without Cat and D'Lo beat the Pelicans 120 to 110. The Pelicans this year are looking very concerning under Jeff Van Gundy, especially JJ Redick. He is shooting 32% from 3 this year, and he is a career 41% three-point shooter. This is his worst year percentage-wise since 2012, 2013 with the Bucks and Orlando when he shot 36%. Otherwise, just about every year of his career, he has been high 30s or low 40s. So it's a bit concerning. I expect him to turn around, although he is 36, so he could just have lost it by now. But I'm not sure that's the case, and I think he will turn it around. But we'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, going into the rest of the team, Bledsoe and Steven Adams definitely don't look like they are the answer to this team long term, or even really short term, because they are not winning games. There's just a very big lack of spacing on this team. Zion needs to work around the paint, and they bring in, Steven Adams, who cannot stretch the floor, Eric Bledsoe, who's a slasher. They already have Lonzo, who's a slasher. Brandon Ingram's mostly a slasher, so it's kind of like, what are we doing here in New Orleans? If you want to get the most out of Zion and Brandon Ingram, they're going to need to be your main slashers. You need to surround them with shooting, and the only real shooter on this team is JJ Redick, and he's not shooting particularly well to start off the year. So I'm not sure what the Pelicans are going to want to do here. I would assume they're going to look to trade Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe at some point, maybe even Lonzo. And I'm also not sure that Jeff Van Gundy is going to be the answer at coach. I do know Pelicans fans are already kind of looking at him like, excuse me, what are you doing here? There's just been a very big lack of consistency on the offensive end, and the lack of spacing is definitely a cause for concern for this team. This has been episode 3 of the NBA Talk Show. I've been your host, Bailey Hauser. If you are enjoying the podcast, please drop a follow, whether you are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Any type of support is greatly appreciated. See you guys next time.